Today we're going to briefly explore the differences between four three-wheelers, the new Uppababy Ridge, the Thule Urban Glide 2, the BabyJogger City Elite 2, and the BabyJogger City Mini GT2, in order to help those currently on the market for a three-wheeler for daily use, as opposed to just for jogging, to figure out which one of these will fit best with their own conditions and lifestyle. So let's get started then, with the newcomer, the Uppababy Ridge, which clocks in at a little over 13 kilos and folds down to 51 by 65 by 90 centimeters. The Ridge has big wheels, strong suspension, and special running-oriented features, a dynamic handbrake and tilt adjustment, that make it quite good for hiking in rougher conditions. And it also has a decent-sized seat, with a better upright position than one finds on a lot of three-wheelers, and an excellent shopping basket that's both large and easily accessible due to the way it extends off the rear frame. At the same time, the Ridge is also definitely on the larger and heavier side for three-wheelers, making it not the best model for very car-based lifestyles. And note that, even though its folded size can be reduced by removing the wheels, this unfortunately exposes the brake discs to potential damage. So it's not something that I would make a regular part of your daily use with this model. As far as durability goes, the Ridge is built quite sturdily in terms of general structure, but has a relatively complicated brake system that will require lubrication and readjustment if you want to keep it in tip-top order. When it comes to which environments and lifestyles the model will best fit, I would say that for warmer climates, it will probably only be a good choice for people looking to get it specifically for hiking, while for snowy northern conditions, where three-wheelers are already popular, the handbrake, the great upright seating position, and most importantly, the size and accessibility of the shopping basket, make the Ridge more generally appealing as a stroller great for both shopping and tackling forest trails. And in addition, though it's not my favorite running model out there, it's also worth noting that the Ridge is the only one of the four strollers we'll be looking at today that can take a bit of light jogging without overly wearing down. Next up is the Thule Urban Glide 2, which weighs in at a lighter 11.5 kilos and folds down to a slightly smaller 34 by 67 by 87 centimeters. Like the Ridge, the Glide 2 is also built to handle hard terrain, with the same 16-inch wheels in the back and 12 in the front, a dynamic handbrake, and decent shock absorption for off-roading, though the suspension setup isn't quite as good as with the Ridge. The lighter weight of the Glide 2 is not that common for a model of its size and type, and is the result of Thule using a somewhat lighter weight metal than usual and relying a lot on the angling of the bars and good horizontal support to produce a sturdy, rigid feel. And the model then is sturdy and wear resistant in actual use, and also has somewhat less complicated mechanisms in a few places than the Ridge, but it's important to note that it's also somewhat less resilient when it comes to accidents that may result in bending or snapping the bars than a lot of comparable models. The main negatives with the Glide 2 come, in my opinion, with the seat, which is a bit on the smaller side for three-wheelers, though is still bigger than any reversible seat model, and which doesn't have quite as good of an upright position as the Ridge or the BabyJogger models that we'll be covering next, though this can be mitigated to some extent by using a seat insert or a sit-up strap. As far as best use is concerned, like the Ridge, the Glide 2 is more the sort of model that one should buy primarily for hiking, or for daily use in northern conditions, where the big wheels count a lot with snow, and is, in my opinion, only a preferable choice over the Ridge in situations where you'll be using the model regularly with a car, where its lighter weight, combined with the fact that the rear wheels can be removed without exposing any easily damaged mechanisms, make the Glide a bit more trunk-friendly. Not as friendly as a model with smaller wheels, of course, but more acceptable if you plan to drive to hiking spots. And last up for today then are the two BabyJogger models, the City Elite 2 and the City Mini GT2, with the first clocking in at the same 11.5 kilos as the Glide, and the second weighing closer to 10. While in terms of folded dimensions, the Elite 2 folds down to 35 by 67 by 85 centimeters, and the GT2 folds down to 26 by 62 by 75, meaning that both are smaller than the previous models, with the Elite 2 being only slightly smaller than the Glide, while the difference with the GT2 is more significant. The biggest reason for this difference in folded size has to do with the fact that they have smaller wheels, 12 inches all around on the Elite 2 and 8.5 on the GT2, which is the result of both models being made with more all-round use in mind than the Ridge or the Glide, which means a bit less capability for tackling really rough off-road conditions, but which also makes them more manageable for packing down. The Elite 2 can still handle rougher hiking conditions, with the only real noticeable difference versus these other models being a bit less shock absorption, while the GT2 can take lighter rough ground, dirt roads and cobblestones and so on, having comparable terrain capability to the better four-wheelers out there. In terms of other characteristics, both the Elite 2 and the GT2 have significantly larger seats than either the Ridge or the Glide, and have decent upright positions as well. And they're also quite durable in general. I still see even as much as 10-year-old versions of these models out there on the streets on a regular basis. Though it is important to note that they aren't put under the same pressure generally as strollers like the Ridge or the Glide, and would likely weaken faster if they were, due to the lack of front-to-rear frame support bars. The folding mechanisms and brake systems on the Elite 2 and the GT2 are also more complex in some ways, though the brake system does at least involve only a single wire, and both of these models definitely need routine lubrication to keep functioning properly. As far as best use is concerned, both of these models will, for most people, make better everyday strollers than either the Ridge or the Glide, due primarily to their smaller folded size and their bigger seats, and are what I would generally choose as long as you don't have major hiking aspirations, with the only caveat being possibly if you need the better storage capacity of the Ridge. If choosing between the Elite 2 and the GT2, it's all about just assessing your terrain needs and picking accordingly. In any case, we hope you found this video useful, and if you did, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. If you'd like to know more about these models, we have standalone reviews for all of them, and links have been added in the description. In addition, if you are currently shopping for stroller, we have a buyer's guide on our Patreon page which lists a wide range of models that we recommend, with a lot of technical and lifestyle related information. You can find that by following the link in the description as well. Thank you.